Welcome to the hub of analytics education, preparing students for the future, millions of records at a time. The hub of analytics education is located in Boston, Massachusetts. My name is Charlie Bain Maldron, one of the co-founders of the hub of analytics education. The objective for today's video is to learn how to join two tables together. The business intelligence tool that we're going to be using today is ACL. ACL is predominantly used by internal and external auditors, as well as risk management professionals. You're going to need a few files for this one. You're going to need the purchase price file, you're going to need the beginning inventory file, and the ending inventory file. We're going to be joining all three of those files together. You'll also need to get your license for ACL. Once you have those files and your license, we can get started. All right, we're back here in ACL, and this is around where we left off the last time. We had extracted from the sales data set these inventory IDs, and I've just renamed it sales IDs. But in this video, what we want to do is we're going to do some stuff with these sales IDs, but before we do that, we're going to try and join a couple of tables, and we also want to work on appending data from one table onto another table. So the first thing we want to do is we want to look at joining two tables. So let's close out of this and let's take a look at some of the things that I did since the last time we had the video. I brought in a lot more data. Now we don't need all of these items, but you'll at least need the beginning inventory and the ending inventory, as well as the purchase prices for this particular video. So we brought in the beginning inventory, we brought in December purchases, we already had December sales, we brought in December purchase prices and ending inventory. In addition, I also summarized December purchases by ID. And we've done all these things in previous videos, including summarizing data, importing data, and doing some indexing. Many of these tables already have indexes in them. So what I want to start with is the ending inventory table. So let's open that up. And let's see if I put any indexes on this. I've got it indexed by inventory ID and by brand. So let's take a look at what we have here as far as fields are concerned. We have a lot of the things that you've already seen: inventory ID, store, city, brand, etc. We also have the on hand as of this date, and we also have price. But the price here is not the purchase price, this is the sales price. And you can get those data definitions from the hub of analytics education. So what we'd love to have here in this ending inventory file are the purchase prices, or the cost of each of these items. Well, we have another file called the December purchase prices. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pin this table to our workspace here so we can move between the two. I'm also going, and we're going to bring up, and we're going to open up December purchase prices. So now I can see both tables, or I can have access to move between both tables. So now I have December purchase prices, and it has a lot of the same information. It doesn't have certain information. There's 12,261 records in here, and we've got brand, description, sale price, and size. A lot of the same kinds of things, but there are some variables that aren't here. Well, inventory ID. Well, remember, inventory ID is the store number, city, as well as brand. Here, this is all just by brand. There's some other variables that we haven't seen before: volume, classification, purchase price, that's a variable I want to see, vendor number, and vendor name. So we want to join this ending inventory file and this purchase price file and get data from the purchase price file loaded into this ending inventory file. So we need to, first of all, let's close out our December purchases. We need to figure out what is the common variable here, common field between December purchase prices and the ending inventory. And the common field here is going to be brand. So I want to activate the index for brand and get everything sorted based on brand. Then I want to start thinking about joining this inventory table with our December purchase prices. So we're going to go up here to data and we're going to go to join. And the ending inventory is my primary table. So we're going to get our primary key from our primary table. So we're going to click on primary key and we're going to select brand and make that our primary key. Now you can join this on multiple keys, but when you start adding more and more keys, it becomes a much more complicated process. So we're going to use brand as our one primary key. For our secondary table, we need to select it. And our secondary table is December purchase prices. And our secondary key is also brand. So we want to match on brand. Click OK. Now we also want to retain some of this data and bring in some other data from the other table, from the December purchase prices, specifically purchase price. So let's first of all populate the primary fields. Well, we want to go through and basically replicate this table, inventory ID, and the order here matters if you want to look at it this way. Inventory ID, then store, city, then brand, description, size, on hand, price, and let's put in the end date as well. Those would be the fields I want from the ending inventory. How about the fields from the secondary table? Well, we've got brand already, but we don't have classification, so let's put in classification. We already have description, size, but I'd like to have volume as well, so let's put in volume next. We already have price. I don't need that, but I do need the purchase price. So let's put that in. And let's put in vendor number and vendor name to round it out. So those are all my secondary keys. Now the next thing we want to do is we want to figure out, do we want to have this, is this table already pre-sorted and is this pre-sorted? I can tell you that the secondary table is not pre-sorted, so I'm going to want that to be pre-sorted. This table is pre-sorted and I can click this off. This will make it run a little bit faster. Again, we can put in a conditional variable here. We only want this join to happen for certain records. For our purposes, we want it to happen for all records. And we are going to put this to a particular file. And let's call this the ending inventory with purchase price, with P price. All right, go over here more. This looks good. Oh, wait a minute, join cat only match primary records. Well, you know what, I'd like to include everything. All primary and all secondary records. That way I can make sure that if anything's missing, I can at least identify it quickly. Let's go back to main. Everything looks fine. Let's hit OK. Now this won't take very long at all. In fact, that's about how long it takes. And now we have an ending inventory table with all of our original data in the ending inventory file, plus all of the new variables. And we can also add an index onto this as well. So that's one table that we've used and we've joined a couple of tables together in this case. Now let's move on to the next item. Let's close both of these out and let's bring up our sales IDs. Now we wanted to pull out all of the IDs from the other tables. So let's figure out how to do that. So let's first of all, let's rename the sales IDs. Let's call this the master IDs. Let's rename this table master IDs. Okay, master IDs. Now, what we want to do next is we want to basically extract the IDs from the other tables like beginning inventory, summarize purchases, and ending inventory, and append it or add it to the end of the master ID file. Now, one of the things you've got to make sure you do when you read in data and you are reading in a primary key is you want to make sure that the field length for all primary keys is the same. So the way to make sure to find that out is let's go back to master ID, and we can go over here and look at the table layout. So we click on this here and look at the table layout. And we can see that inventory ID has a length of 35. We can look at the table layout options, and we can see that the overall record length is 35. So every other inventory ID has got to have that same record length, or it's not going to it's not going to append as easy. So let's make sure that the object tables all have a ID length of 35. So beginning inventory, let's take a look at that. Let's look at the field expressions and inventory ID length of 35. I'm happy with that. Let's look at ending inventory and look at the layout. Also 35. And then finally, let's look at our summarized December purchases by ID. Look at the layout, inventory, 35. That's pretty critical. That has got to be the same. So whatever you read, when you read in data and you're reading in an inventory ID or you're reading in some primary key, make sure they're all the same length. All right, so let's go to beginning inventory, and we're going to go and do our extract just the same way we did in our last video. We're going to go extract. We're only extracting fields, and we're going to extract the inventory ID. Let's go to more. We want to append to an existing file, and we want it to be end of file processing. And the file we wanted to append to is master IDs. So these 206 records should add to the end of our master IDs. And this should not take long at all. So let's take a look at this. All right, now that we're done with this, now we want to go back to our sales IDs and start doing some work with that, because we just have the sales IDs, and what we want to do is merge all of the IDs, both from beginning inventory, ending inventory, and the summarized purchases into the sales ID file. So let's close these out here, and let's look at our sales IDs. Now, one of the things you've got to make sure when you are appending, and that's adding to the end of one table, certain ID elements or certain field elements, you want to make sure that the field elements or the width of the fields are the same across all of the different files. And this is particularly important when you are dealing with primary keys like inventory IDs. The way to check that is to make sure that go over here and look at the file table layout and see what the length is of your particular field, right? So this is an ASCII field and it's length 35. So everything else that we bring in as far as inventory ID should at least be ASCII with a length of 35. So let's just double check. So we'll go to beginning, we're going to pin this here. We're going to go to beginning inventory. We're going to go to edit table layout, look at inventory ID, 35, ASCII. So it's the same. We'll do the exact same thing with the summarized December purchases. Look at the table layout, inventory ID, 35, ASCII. So we want to make sure all of these are consistent. And last, we'll just look at ending inventory. I'm sure it's the same because I made it the same. And inventory ID, 35, ASCII. So at least all these inventory IDs have the same width, same characteristics. So when then I merge them together or append them to one another, they should all be the same. Okay, let's close this out. Now notice how many count we've got here in our sales ID. 267,552. Let's write that down, 267,552. Because what we want to do is we want to add to the sales IDs the beginning inventory. Now the number of records here are 206,529. So 206,529 and 267,522, I think that's what it was, 267,552. That should be the sum total of all of the inventory IDs that we put into the sales ID file. So let's go back to beginning inventory and let's extract these inventory IDs into the sales ID file. So we're going to do what we did before. Go up here, extract. We're only extracting a field, inventory ID. We're going to go to more. What I want to do is I want to append this data to an existing file. We'll go back to main, and the file we want to append it to is sales IDs. Now, this should not take very long, and we should see a combination of 206,529 plus 267,522. I'll be right back with you when this is done. Okay, we're back. So the combination of those two files, 267,552 plus the 206,529, should equal 474,081. And we can see it is 474,081. Now we can keep going and keep adding more and more data. So let's take a look at ending inventory and append the ending inventory IDs to the sales IDs. Let's open up ending inventory ID. We've got 224,489. So that's going to ultimately give us a total of 698,570 records. Let's go to Data, Extract, Fields, Inventory ID, Append to an existing file, and the existing file is Sales IDs. Let's see if we get 698,570. 698,570 in that particular extraction and append to sales IDs. Last one is our summarized December purchases by ID. Let's open that up. It has 245,907 records. So let's add that to our existing total. And the total now of all four of these files together, appended together, should be 944,477 records. So data, extract, fields, inventory ID, append to existing file, and the existing file is sales IDs. Let's see what we get. 944,477. So what we've done here is we have extracted all of the IDs and we have put it into this one file. Now, obviously, there's a lot of duplicates here. So what can we do to just get a master list of all of these IDs? Very simply, we can go and use our summarize function. Let's do that. Analyze, summarize. We're going to summarize on inventory ID. We have no subtotal field. We have no other field. We don't really need, we're going to have this pre-sort for us because we didn't put in an index. And we're going to output this to the master IDs file. Let's see what happens. And now we have our master ID list of 276 records, 389, and it tells us how many times those IDs existed in that sales ID file. Thanks for watching the Hub of Analytics Education video series. The Hub of Analytics Education provides open educational resources to educators around the globe, supporting both higher education and secondary education. For more information, please visit our website at hubae.org.